Okay, so welcome, welcome, welcome. I am Dr. Jacqueline Biddle Richard, and I am the voter czar for the Links Incorporated El Paso, Texas chapter of the Links. And this is our inaugural voter czar event. It's called Navigating Your Voting Rights. And this actually came about as a collaboration internally between myself as the chapter voter czar and the chapter's National Trends and Services Facet Committee members. And the members, I want to recognize the members right up front. Sandra Reed, who is on board with us, Lillian Crouch, and Susan King. And I also want to actually welcome our president for the Links Incorporated El Paso chapter, who is here today with us, Miss Ave Maria Smart. And I thank her for her support, and I'm glad that she's able to be here with us today. Now, just a little bit of housekeeping in terms of the agenda for the program. First, obviously, I'm recording this, but also, if you can keep your video off and keep yourself muted. Otherwise, I can mute you. If you have questions, you can ask in the chat, and I will get to the chat, or hopefully maybe April could see the chat, but if not, I'll get to the chat at some point, just to kind of keep the show, the event moving. Now, Lisa Weiss, who is the county's election administrator, had a conflict late in the week this week, so she's not available for us today, but she did promise that she's going to be available for another event for us. So that will be coming later, and so we'll just move forward today because we have two fantastic panelists, and we also have an awesome young person who is going to talk about his experiences as a voter. So we really have a great show for you. So the first person I want to introduce to you is Carol Wallace. Now, I'm going to go ahead and read her bio. Carol Parra Strohmeyer Wallace is currently the president of the League of Women Voters of El Paso. She became president in 2019, and prior to that, she served as the League's secretary from 2014 to 2019. She is an educator. She's retired from the El Paso Independent School District after 35 years as a teacher and an administrator. She continues teaching, tutoring, and working with testing students. She has been an activist in social justice issues for most of her adult life, and I'm going to allow her to really talk to you about that. Let's see, letting people in at the same time that I'm talking. She is also, as president, I think, and this is one of the reasons I really invited her as well. She is really interested in making sure that the League of Women Voters here in El Paso is part of, participates in the greater El Paso community efforts to join other El Paso nonprofits like LULAC, like NAACP, and like others advocating for the issues that they support. And I'm going to allow her to speak on some of the issues they support and initiatives that they have. So at this point, please welcome Carol Wallace.
Good afternoon.
Carol, it's really nice to have you. I have some questions that I just want to kind of field to you and get your response, and then we can continue. So tell us about the League of Women Voters, just a brief history, who they are in general. Tell us about who they are here in El Paso.
Well, the League was founded in 1919 from the suffragists who advocated for the 19th Amendment. If it hadn't been for the suffragists, women wouldn't have the right to vote. And it took many trials and efforts, but eventually the 19th Amendment was passed and women were allowed to vote. Unfortunately, for the Black community, you didn't get that right until the 1960s. And, so we realize that equity was not, was something that came late. And we're still fighting for it. With the latest SCOTUS ruling on the voting rights, taking away a lot of the rights, we've seen the damage that has been done, especially in Texas, of late, when the biggest fiasco was the vote by mail. And they made it so hard and so difficult that over 18% of the ballots were thrown out, and which is a crying shame, because most of the people that use the vote by mail are the elderly.
Right, and Texas,
so
it's already limited in that in any event. It's not anybody can use it. They already limit the number, who can actually take advantage of that. So
exactly.
for those votes to not be counted, it is a travesty. And tell me about a little bit about the history with the chapter here in El Paso.
All right. Believe it or not, El Paso is one of the first 5 leagues of women voters in Texas. We actually precede the 1919 vote admittance, and it was started in a little bit before that, in 1918, I think, or earlier, 1919. So we're over 100 years old, and we celebrated our 100th birthday in 2019, and the county commissioners court and the city council granted us, they recognized it recognizes as being over 100 years old. However, there was a big hiatus where we didn't do anything until again in the 1950s and 60s when it started again. I actually didn't join until about 7 or 8 years ago. And Pat White, our treasurer, is one of our older members, and she is wonderful because she has taken this organization and really let it help. She's the treasurer, and she doesn't want to be the president because she's a money person. In fact, she was one of the original. She worked at White Sands, and she was one of those computer whizzes that like the women that movie. What was the name of the movie? The Black ladies that were in NASA. But she's a white lady. Her name is Pat White, but she's up here. She knows all the computer stuff. So, and she wants to figure out the money problems that we have. But anyway, that's a little bit of our history.
And that would be Hidden Figures, by the way, but yes.
Hidden Figures, that I can never remember that name, but
I have a friend who actually is connected to one of those women. But so tell us about some of the current initiatives that the League is working on, both locally and nationally.
Well, locally, for the past 2 years, we have been focused locally and statewide and nationally with the Fair Maps Coalition in redistricting. And we interviewed over 20 neighborhood coalitions so that we could have a fair maps process. And it took us, Carmen Rodriguez was the chair and Jesus Valdez was our co-chair. And it took us a year and a half, but we advocated for fair maps at the county and the city level. The state was working on the state, and unfortunately, you saw how gerrymandered that was, especially in El Paso. We lost one of our representatives, and then nationally, you'll see how our congressional district is one of the most gerrymandered in the country. We have they El Paso, who is represented by Veronica Escobar, but they also came and ate up pieces of El Paso, all the way, including the El Paso airport and parts of Fort Bliss. And that is a representation that is represented by Tony Gonzalez, who happens to be a Republican, and they did that on purpose. And he's in San Antonio. So he's one of our representatives, but they wanted to make sure that they got that vote in. And the League of Women Voters is committed to being nonpartisan, but we are advocates of fair and equal processes for voting, for women's rights, for health rights, for education, for all immigration, all of those social justice issues.
Awesome, awesome. And tell us about some ways in which people can well, tell us about some election resources available through the league.
Okay, we work with Lisa Weiss, the El Paso County Elections Department, but if you'll let me share the screen, I can do that right now and show you our website, and you can find out how to go to those areas.
Okay, you should be able to.
Okay.
Share the screen there.
All right, there it is. If you are interested in accessing our website, you can go to lwvep.org, and this is our League of Women Voters webpage. We just now joined the League of Women Voters US and the League of Women Voters of Texas helped fund our first year. They gave us over $1,000 so we could be on the Club Express. And there's our Betty Halliburton and Alyssa Benavides. And here are some of our board members from last year. There I am. And this is when we were in the middle of the pandemic. One of our forums, we had a great Women's Equality Day event last year, and this year's was even better. And we're going to be posting pictures of those. Those are our great poppies. And there's, I think that picture is about 2 or 3 years old. And there's our star on the mountain. So that's our a little bit about us. The League of Women Voters is proud to be nonpartisan, neither supporting or opposing candidates or political parties, but always working on vital issues of concern to members in the public. We are stronger together. So if you'll see this last Saturday, we had a great Women's Equality Day celebration, and I'm proud to say that Dr. Jacqueline was there, and we had some great speakers. Veronica Escobar spoke to us via video. Diana Saavedra, the El Paso superintendent, is the first woman and Hispanic. Andrea Hutchinson is the first CEO of the Chamber of Commerce of El Paso, and she's from Kansas. And Erica Marin is the first director of El Paso History Museum, and our YWCA interim CEO is Sarika Barlow. So these were our featured speakers, and it was such a great event. So, and we're proud of us. And this, we had balloons that said votes for women. So please, if you would like to join us, you can click this website, and up here, if you look at these buttons up here, you can, under voter resources, you'll see the county elections website, and I'll click on that real fast. And that'll link you directly to all of the voter information, and you can find out your precinct, and you can find out who's on the ballot. So that is directly linked to us. Just a second, let me make this a little bit smaller. Also, if you want, I may have to pull this down just a bit. Let me see. Let me go back up here. The voter resources, our elected officials, the upcoming elections, our voters guides, the League of Women Voters of Texas produces at the state level all of the information that you need for statewide candidates. And we do it in English and in Spanish. Our Vote 411, who Pat White that I told you earlier, she is the one that produces Vote 411, has information on all the candidates at the local level, and she sends out information to them, and they get back to her. Of course, some of them never do, and then they complain that they're not represented, but they didn't fill out the required paperwork. So if you ever want to go to Vote 411, just go vote411.org, and it's got all the information that you need, and it will tell you all of your information on each state. So it's a very user-friendly website.
Thank you so
Vote
much.
by mail. And then our advocacy programs that we have here. So, and if you want to join us, you go to this button here and you can become a member, and we'd love to have you all as members. We have some great people in our organization. Are there any questions on the website so I can close it and get back to your questions?
Well, I know one of the things that I wanted to make note of is that you always, it seems on your website, there's always like information about historical voting related days that are celebrated. So for example, here, upcoming events, August 28th, I see here for I Have a Dream speech, the March on Washington, and it talks a little bit about that. And that's something that I always notice when I go on the website, is that there's like, it'll say like a holiday or just a special event that has to do with social justice, that's usually posted on the site or talked about on Twitter as well. So I think.
Yes, and this is it. If you go to the events calendar, it has that. So thank you for pointing that out. There are many things. We have many resources, and we want to get back. Let's see, go back here. If you have any questions, you can always email me, and I'll put my email on the chat also.
Thank you so much,
Okay.
Carol, for your presentation.
Okay, thank you. Let me get out of here. Stop share.
Okay.
Sometimes my technology skills are a little lacking. But we had a great event yesterday. We had over 100 people at the El Paso boardroom, El Paso boardroom at Community College. But and Dr. Jackie was there. So thank you. I also want to point out one thing. I think this is where I met you. That we were asked to put together something for the recognizing Maud Sampson Williams, who formed the El Paso's Negro Woman Civic Equal Franchise League in June of 1918, and she was recognized by the Historical Society. And I have some of these, and I've already given some to the NAACP, yes, and to the Black Democrats. But if your group would like one, I have a couple of extra copies.
Yes, and there is actually a place. What are they called? A post. It's a place downtown, right on at the courthouse, right in front of the courthouse.
Right,
It's
there's a
like a
plaque.
monument. It's like a plaque there, but it's like a monument, and it really recognizes this woman for really getting Black women voters and Black voters in general, but also affected voter registration on a state level too. So if you get a chance to go out there, I was out there for that ceremony, and you're right, that's how I met you, Carol. Well, thank you so, so much. I'm going to continue with the rest of the program. You are welcome to stay to listen to the rest of the program. So I hope you do.
Thank you.
Okay, so so next on my agenda, I have oh my goodness, I have Dr. Michael Williams. Okay, so I'm going to get on and read his bio. I just have to tell you that I'm really just excited to have Dr. Williams here. And, you know, when I thought this thing up, I thought, you know, I want somebody who can speak to giving us a reminder of the voting journey, and also tell us about what's at stake. And I had no idea that Dr. Williams would be that person. And it's just the best person we could have gotten to do this. And I appreciate that. But here is his bio. Dr. Michael Vincent Williams is the son of James and Deloise Williams of Etta, Mississippi. He is the oldest sibling in a close-knit family of 7 sisters and 3 brothers, and has 2 beautiful daughters named Ayo and Marimba, and a son named Eziani. He is happily married to the beautiful and talented Dr. Patry Williams. Williams earned a bachelor degree in history and sociology and a master of arts in history and the doctor of philosophy in history from the University of Mississippi. He was also among the university's first Phi Beta Kappa initiating class. His research and teaching interests include social and political resistance movements, civil rights struggle and conflict, Black intellectuals and radicalism in various aspects of African history. He has spoken extensively well on the civil rights movement, the NAACP Field Secretary Medgar Wiley Evers, and the impact of the civil rights struggle on the social and political development of America. He continues to serve on numerous boards and committees, including the Mississippi Department of Archives and History, Medgar and Merle Evers Research Scholars Program Selection Committee. And Williams also served as one of a number of civil rights history specialty scholars selected by the Mississippi Department of Archives and History as consultants on the ideological and organizational conception of the new Civil Rights Museum that opened in Jackson, Mississippi in 2017, and the National Parks and Services current development of the Medgar and Merle Evers Home National Monument in Jackson, Mississippi. He has given radio interviews for Public Broadcasting Service, for the National Public Radio and the British Broadcasting Corporation regarding the life and legacy of Medgar Evers and the civil rights movement in Mississippi. He was also featured on C-SPAN's titled series, Book TV in Jackson, Mississippi, and has received a number of awards in recognition for his scholarship, teaching, and community service, including the Bharati Maharashtra Excellence in Teaching Award and the Union County Branch NAACP Freedom Fund Banquet Award and the Phenomenal Man Award. Williams has presented his research at a number of national and regional conferences and programs throughout the country. In addition, he has published on a variety of topics. Williams is the author of the biography on the NAACP Field Secretary Medgar Wiley Evers, titled Medgar Evers, Mississippi Martyr. He also has publications in the Griot the Journal of African American Studies, has an essay in the anthology, The Civil Rights Movement in Mississippi, as well as Race, Labor, and Violence in the Mississippi Delta, an article in the International Journal of Africana Studies, and co-authored work in the Journal of Borderland Studies. His article, With Determination and Fortitude, We Come to Vote, Black Organization and Resistance to Voter Suppression in Mississippi, won the Mississippi Historical Society's Willie D. Halsell Prize. He continues to receive requests for interviews and a documentary and film cameos with news agencies, including radio and television, requesting his expertise in the civil rights and social struggle area. Williams is the director of the African American Studies program at UTEP and the Black Student Union advisor and professor of history at the University of Texas at El Paso. Welcome, 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 Dr. Williams. Please take it away.
Thank you so much. And I want to share my screen with you.
Okay, and you should be able to. Wonderful.
Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. First of all, I want to start by saying good afternoon to all of you all who are present for this particular event. I also want to take this opportunity to thank the Links Incorporated for the opportunity to be a part of this Navigating Your Voting Rights program. Also want to take this time to say hi to my beautiful wife, Dr. Patrice Williams, who joined us as well as my 9-month-old, soon to be 10-month-old son, Eziani Denmark Ra Williams. And so, Eziani, I want you to listen very closely to what I'm about to say. Again, my name is Dr. Michael Vincent Williams, and I am going to use my time to tap into the historical voices and the historical nature and importance of the fight for the ballot and what that fight and the vote really has meant to Black people then and what it means to us now. And so you're going to hear our people talk about this burning issue of what it meant to them and then what it means to us now. And that's extremely important because that struggle has been a very long and hard one. And so I want you to hear what that struggle is about. It's back in 1865, during a speech before the Massachusetts Anti-Slavery Society, that Frederick Douglass, who had escaped enslavement, came before this body and he argued, first and foremost, he argued that no class of men can, without insulting their own nature, be content with any deprivation of their rights. He also boldly announced that I am for the immediate, unconditional, and universal enfranchisement of the Black man in every state in the Union. Without this, his liberty is a mockery. Without this, you might as well almost retain the old name of slavery for his condition. For in fact, if he is not the slave of the individual master, he is the slave of society and holds his liberty as a privilege, not as a right. He is at the mercy of the mob and has no means of protecting himself. It will be in 1894 in which he further spoke on the importance of education and being informed. Education, he said, means emancipation. It means light and liberty. It means the uplifting of the soul of man into the glorious light of truth, the light by which men can only be made free. One has to fight for his or her rights and stand on that principle, but being informed is a necessity. African Americans demanded the right to vote immediately out of enslavement, and Black men gained that right in 1870 with the 15th Amendment. The fact that only men could vote officially, however, did not mean that Black women did not consider the ballot to be theirs as well, or that they did not understand the power and importance of it, or that they were silent or unaware. Understood what this meant. They went to the polls with the men to ensure that the vote cast was made in the best interest of the Black community. And they held Black men accountable for that vote and meted out sanctions against those who voted against the political interests of the Black community. And sometimes those sanctions were delivered with hickory sticks. Sometimes those women refused to marry or have relationships with men who had proven that they did not have the political interests of Black people in mind. We need such sanctions and demands of accountability today. Women would officially get the right to vote in 1920 with the 19th Amendment. However, that did not include Black women. However, African-American women had long been politically engaged and will continue to be so in the fight to make both the 15th and 19th Amendments a true reality. It would be activist Nannie Helen Burroughs, who in 1915, speaking to the importance of the ballot for women, but Black women in particular, who said this. She said, when the ballot is put in the hands of the American woman, the world is going to get a correct estimate of the Negro woman. It will find her a tower of strength, of which poets have never sung, orators have never spoken, and scholars have never written. Our women have always done the work, as the Links Incorporated is doing now, and they have been at the front lines in our fight for the ballot and to protect the access that we had gained. There's power in the ballot, but you got to know how to use it. You got to know which strategies to include with it in order to get the desired result. For Black people, the vote has always represented first-class citizenship and all the rights that come with having a political voice. It was Dr. W.B. Du Bois who wrote in 1920 that we must remember that if the theory of democracy is correct, the right to vote is not merely a privilege, not simply a method of meeting the needs of a particular group, and at least of all, a matter of recognized want or desire. Democracy is a method of realizing the broadest measure of justice to all human beings. There is work to be done in that. And in that, he further noted that it is the duty of every such government to extend as quickly as possible the number of persons of mature age who can vote. Such possible voters must be regarded not as sharers of a limited treasure, but as sources of new national wisdom and strength. However, white society did not agree and did everything in its power to deny the ballot to its Black citizens. As a means of resistance, Black men and women suffered beatings and were murdered in the fight to register to vote. And in 1965, Reverend C.T. Vivian in Selma, Alabama, confronted boldly Sheriff Jim Clark while trying to register, and he was beaten, but he stood proudly and he argued. He said, you can't keep anyone in the United States from voting without hurting the rights of all other citizens. Democracy is built on this. We're willing to be beaten for democracy. You beat people bloody in order that they will not have the privilege to vote. In 2013, civil rights activist John Lewis recalled that almost 50 years ago, I gave a little blood on that bridge in Selma, Alabama for the right to vote. I'm not going to stand by and let the Supreme Court take the right to vote away from us. You must get out there and push and pull and make America what America should be for all of us. The 15th and 19th Amendments notwithstanding, whites put in place mechanisms to make voting difficult for Black people at best through poll taxes, literacy clauses, questions like how many jelly beans in a jar or how many bubbles in a bar of soap, and other impediments such as redlining, murder, and too few voting machines in our communities. That type of thing continues today. To more deadly consequences at worst, represented by the many beatings and lynchings used to intimidate Black people. The 1955 murders of Reverend George Lee and Mr. Lamar Smith of Mississippi, who openly advocated that Black people register, are reminders of such loss for us. But yet, in spite of this, we still persevere. Voting is a political right, and one that we should use carefully as an overall strategy in the fight for true representation. And in that fight, the Black vote does matter. The Black vote was the reason John F. Kennedy won the 1960 presidential election with the slimmest margin of victory in the 20th century, and Black people held him accountable when he did not deliver on his promises to the Black community, to those who put him in office. It would be Malcolm X speaking about Kennedy, who said, when a man running for president tells Negroes that he's going to do for them when he gets into office, and after he gets into office, he has time to do something for everybody except the people who put him in office, he tricked the people who put him in office. How long, as economist Thomas Sowell says, do politicians have to keep on promising heaven and delivering hell before people catch on and stop getting swept away by rhetoric? You got to understand what's happening here. Voting alone is not simply enough. It was Ella Baker who said, even if segregation is gone, we will still need to be free. We will still have to see what everyone has a job, even if we can all vote. But if people are still hungry, we are not being free. We have to keep our eyes on the whole prize, and as Mahalia Jackson passionately saying, our hands on the plow. Again, voting alone is simply not enough without the political accountability. And in that, the Black vote does matter. The Black vote has mattered. This November will be an extremely important election cycle with systemic and institutional racism, police brutality, citizenship, and the wanton murder of Black men, women, and people of color at the forefront of these political discussions. With what it means to be a first-class citizen whose rights and humanity are recognized and protected will be at the forefront of these political discussions. And as such, we must be a part of these conversations at all levels. No matter where you are, it is your duty to be a part of these conversations and represent the interests of Black people. That's what the struggle for the vote has been about for us. Historically, we have been here before. And in that, our political voices have mattered. In 1964, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. went on a city tour urging people to vote. And on October 27th in Los Angeles, he explained to the crowd that each of us has a moral responsibility if we are of voting age and if we are registered to participate in that decision. I come here to urge every person under the sound of my voice to go to the polls on the 3rd of November and vote your conviction. Now, I know you're intelligent people, and I don't need to tell you who you should vote for. I don't have any fear about that. You know who to vote for. I'm just asking you to vote. It was the giant Fannie Lou Hamer who argued that if voting meant becoming a first-class citizen with all the rights and privileges that come with it, then I'm determined to get every Negro in the state of Mississippi registered. She further argued that it is our right to stay here, and we will stay and stand up for what belongs to us as American citizens because they can't say that we haven't had patience. This white man who is saying it takes time. For 300 and more years, they have had time, and now it is time for them to listen. She also pointed out that when I liberate myself, I liberate others. If you don't speak out, ain't nobody going to speak out for you. We all have a responsibility. So let us keep that Fannie Lou Hamer determination and conviction going forward here and demand all that is our rights as citizens. And the ballot is a strategy in that ballot. This country has a whole lot to answer for. Let us not forget activist Mary Church Terrell's observation in 1906 that the chasm between the principles upon which this government was founded, in which it still professes to believe, and those which are daily practiced under the protection of the flag, yawns so wide and deep. We cannot forget that it was our historian, Dr. Carter G. Woodson, who wrote in The Miseducation of the Negro that history shows that it does not matter who is in power or what revolutionary forces take over the government. Those who have not learned to do for themselves and have to depend solely on others never obtain any more rights or privileges in the end than they had in the beginning. Let our collective voices be heard in this election cycle and use the vote as an additional strategy in the fight for equality. And this November will be yet another critical opportunity for us to do so in the fight for our lives to prevent the atrocities happening now from happening to our children and the next generation in the future. That's what's at stake. So as my time nears, I want to leave you with the words of Supreme Court Chief Justice, or Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall's 1992 plea, which was relevant then and is relevant now. Marshall said that we cannot play ostrich. Democracy just cannot flourish amid fear. Liberty cannot bloom amid hate. Justice cannot take root amid rage. America must get to work. In the chill climate in which we live, in 92, he was saying that climate was chill. It's icebox now. In this chill climate we live, we must go against the prevailing wind. We must dissent from the indifference. We must dissent from the apathy. We must dissent from the fear, the hatred, and the mistrust. We must dissent from a nation that has buried its head in the sand, waiting in vain for the needs of its poor, its elderly, and its sick to disappear and just blow away. We must dissent from a government that has left its young without jobs, education, or hope. We must dissent from the poverty of vision and the absence of moral leadership. We must dissent because America can do better, because America has no choice but to do better. Take a chance, he said, won't you? Knock down the fences that divide. Tear apart the walls that imprison. Reach out. Freedom lies, he says, just on the other side. And so I say that engaged social, cultural, and political activism in all phases is the key, and the vote is one such strategy in that struggle. And as such, the Black vote historically has mattered, and the Black vote presently matters today. We got to know how to use it. The Black vote, in conjunction with other strategies, was important then and it's important today if we are to actually get that freedom, which Thurgood Marshall argued that lies just on the other side. And so with that, I want to thank each of you all for the opportunity to be here. And I want to thank the Links Incorporated for your hard and fruitful work. Thank you so very much for the time.
Oh boy, I'm speechless. For a lawyer to be speechless is like, whoa, just drop the mic, okay? Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh boy, that was just food for the soul right there. That was just food for the soul, and way more than I ever even dreamed that that I could have for today. And I appreciate you taking us back and bringing us to right now, to why it is that is so important. And you know, I think it's a really great segue to really having to hearing from our youth, and hearing from someone who has just gotten in the system of voting, and just to reflect on that, you know. I am introducing next David Baptiste. I just know him as the son of my friend Regina, but he's going to introduce himself. And I'm going to have some questions for you, David. I really appreciate you being here today with us to share your thoughts and your experience as being a registered voter and voting. So first of all, just tell us your name, tell us what school you go to. I know, you know, tell us about yourself.
Am I coming through okay?
Oh, yes, yes, I can hear you.
Okay, okay. I just needed to make sure that came happen first. Hey, I'm David Baptiste II, after the doctor being the first. I'm currently in my last year or so of UTEP College, just over there, my computer science undergraduate course. I have about 110 hours, 117 hours, right?
Oh.
And for myself, I've as of this past May, I've reached 21 years of age, and I got my driver's license when I was 20, just a few months before. So I'm more or less a American adult. What else is?
And yeah, being an American adult, voting comes with that, right?
Yes, I was able. It's been a while since I have voted, but I have it, so. It's nothing, it's something I can't quite forget, especially going over it now.
Well, tell me this. Well, first of all, tell me this. What are your thoughts about Dr. Williams's talk? about his presentation.
It was a very empowering message because well, there's two sides to it because there's the reality of it, which is this has just been something that's plagued us from our parents, our grandparents, their grandparents. This is something that's been here for a long time and is honestly a bit rough to hear, just to know that it's been a problem. But then you look at the other side and see just how much we've been fighting for it. And that should empower you to really take the worth of this vote to heart. And even though I honestly, I'm not really sure about how to vote as like a whole. I'm still very new. I don't quite know the weight of my actions, but I do understand that voting is a very capability, not only in our society, like in our people, but as a nation overall. Having the right to vote, having the ability to vote and right to vote afterward is something that's very important. I'm using my hands a lot, aren't I? You can't see them. Okay.
I think you hit on a very a very important aspect, because you're right, there's having the ability and then there's having the right.
Mhm.
And if, you know, if what we're seeing, and actually some of what Dr. Williams alluded to in his presentation is, you know, we're seeing that our rights and our ability, actually, not our ability to vote, right? Because there's the rights, stuff that's written, it's, you know, it's a law somewhere, but actually the ability to actually move forward in doing it, we do see that that is something that is an issue now. So tell me this, how do you think you'll continue to really take this momentum in terms of your voting rights? What do you envision yourself like moving forward? And you know, you said yourself that you're still kind of trying to see where you fit in all of this, and the consequences of your actions. How do you see yourself as someone who's young and coming into this? You know, what can you do, and how can
I, I'm sorry, I don't want to cut anybody off. I'm very much going to just have to say, I'm just going to need to practice voting. I know there's a lot of things to vote for at the state level, county level, country level, if I even get to that point. So just going in and researching the people going into this voting, as well as what they're voting for, knowing what my vote will change depending on who I choose. It just takes a lot of research and experience to vote. So I guess going more often would generally make me understand how and what to use my vote for.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your views. I think it's super important. You know, I know myself being a mom, when I first, you know, had my son vote alongside me, and as a first-time voter, and so it's a lot, right? It's a lot, and I think the rest of us could learn from that. Not taking it so lightly, right? Because sometimes we forget and we go and we just kind of vote down the line and we don't even know the names. I know from New Jersey, moving here to here and having to vote, I had never seen that many people on the voting ballot before. Like, you know, so I think you really also hit something else, which is how seriously we have to take it, and we have to all go back to that, you know, researching and really, you know, the best way that we could make and I think what I'm hearing from you is that the best way we can make our vote count is to really make these educated guests, and because that's all that we're doing, I think, with a vote, right? But at least it's educated and intentional and thoughtful, and so that we can make affect change. So I appreciate you for what you brought to us today. And thank you. Next, I'm gonna just,
Having me.
oh, thank you, thank you. And if, yes, you can leave or stay. And next, I just wanna, as we roll, towards the end of the program, I want to just kind of talk about some announcements that we have. First, I want to, of anybody that came from any organization, church, or any other organization, what we want to do as a chapter, the Links Incorporated El Paso, Texas chapter wants to really call to action for voter registration. We want to partner with any organization, churches in our communities, to help register voters. And we want you to report back to us, right? To let us know if, how many people you've register. I also want to let everybody know that September 18, 2022 is the Black Voter Registration Day. There's a lot of resources out there and a lot of things going to be going on that day. So you can go and educate yourself on that. And also, as another resource, there is an organization called When We All Vote. And it's an organization that provides election resources and programs. And it's particularly focused and interested in increasing the number of registered voters within the Black community. So that's also a great resource. And I also wanted to say that there are a lot of ways that individuals can participate in the election process. And here in El Paso, you can just go to the county election website, and you can find out about being a volunteer registrar. So that's somebody who actually can register people to vote. I do that. So if you need me to come to your organization and set up a table and do that, and we have other Links members who are also authorized to do that. Also, you can work at the polls. You can also elect to be an election judge, but that's done through the local political party. So you would go to your whatever party you belong to and request, find out what is the process. But that's also a way in which individuals can actually work and help with the election process locally. So in closing, I want to thank our president of the Links Incorporated El Paso chapter, El Paso, Texas chapter, Ave Maria Smart. Thank you so much for joining us today. I want to thank the National Transit Services chapter level committee, Sandra Reed, Susan King, and Lillian Crouch. And I want to thank Carol Wallace for sharing with us all that the League of Women Voters have done for us here in the community, and what they continue to do, and how we as women really should, want to partner with the League of Women Voters, because I just, I think that they're really a source of great support for all women in El Paso, but also in particular Black women. And of course, I want to thank, I want to thank David Baptiste for taking time out of his schedule, impromptu, and really showing up and showing out for the young people of El Paso. I appreciate you. And of course, I want to thank Dr. Williams, who just hit the ball right out of the ballpark. I probably said that all wrong, but I think you did it. This was amazing. And it was, I know I felt something inside when I just hearing you speak. And the only thing that could be like just one level above is that next time you come and do it live, so that I could see the hands and everything going with the voice and everything. I just really thank you for that. And I hope all of you come back and join us for future voter rights events. And just stay tuned and get registered, get educated. Thank you, David. And vote and vote. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.